Thank you very much for asking me to come and talk today. Most of you have probably never ever heard of a company called Bango. We're a small company founded in Cambridge. We're AIM listed, and we started an apprenticeship scheme in 2013. We're a small to medium enterprise, 70 employees, and Bango is one of those little unheard of companies that does a lot of things on a global scale with some amazing companies. So I joined the company in 2012, and my first week I went to see Google, Microsoft, BlackBerry, Amazon, and Mozilla, Firefox Mozilla. So what we enable is consumers all over the world, over 127 different mobile networks, to buy digital content and charge it to their mobile phone bill. So, dare I say, most of you may have got a phone and got an Android device and decide you want to play a game and you want to buy that content. We enable consumers all over the world to pay for that by charging it to their mobile phone bill. So we're the world leader in that space, and we're, dare I say, up the M11, very small company called Bango. So I joined the company in late 2012 as Chief Operating Officer, and a little bit of background for myself. I was a former apprentice, so that's number one. Way back, I'm quite old, I did a HNC and a HND with a company called Tate & Lyle Sugars, which was a fantastic experience as electrical mechanical engineering apprentice. When I joined Bango, I was tasked with setting up an operations function. And I sat down with the CEO and I said, you know, we've got a fantastic opportunity here. Bango already had a graduate program, so we're already taking developers in from a number of colleges all over the country and further afield. And I think one of the challenges, certainly for us in Cambridge, is actually getting talent is really difficult. You know, if you can imagine Cambridge, it's an absolute tech hub. So one of the thoughts we had was, why don't we start an apprenticeship program? So I approached Cambridge Regional College at the time, and they were offering apprenticeships. And I think one of the things as an employer, as a small employer, you know, we aren't a BT or a big company, is actually it's quite difficult to understand as an employer what to do, what's involved. There's lots of information, but it's not very clear. And obviously, once we'd overcome that hurdle and we worked with Cambridge Regional College, they actually helped quite a lot. So the engagement between the local college and the employer, that collaboration then started. So we set about building an apprenticeship scheme, which the foundations of were based upon both the CEO, who was a former apprentice of Leyland, and my experience of Tate & Lyle Sugars, which was not a one-year apprenticeship. It was create a career ladder for young talent to come into the organisation, start at level 1, start at level 2, and then progress all the way up with the option to do a foundation degree. And the goal was to do two things. One, take people that perhaps were late starters, but had the raw ingredients, maybe not quite good enough from an A-level perspective, wanting to go to university, perhaps not that academic, but very good at what they do, and provide them an environment where effectively, with some coaching and some mentoring, they could add enormous value to the company. So that was sort of the brief that I was given. So we set out with Cambridge Regional College to effectively start an assessment day and recruit a number of people. Given we've got 70 people in the company, we've actually got nearly 10% of the employee base now as apprentices. And it's been so successful that if we think about, I would like to do something in an area, we think actually, could we get an apprentice in to help with that? In the basis of it's a good opportunity to broaden the skills. We did an assessment day, so tests very similar to our German colleague here, tests, assessments, and interestingly, we didn't just look for qualifications, we looked at mindset, their eagerness to learn, whether they'd fit the company in terms of cultural fit, and what were their motives for actually wanting to do the apprenticeship. So, you know, I remember interviewing, bear in mind, I interviewed everybody as the COO. So when everyone went through the interview process, the last interview was with me, and I would ask people a couple of really simple questions. Why do you want to do an apprenticeship? Where do you see yourself? And if they couldn't tell me why they wanted to do it, probably they weren't going to stick around. So, we used that as a way of getting the apprentices on board. We've had zero since 2013. We've not lost anyone on the programme, and actually we're now about to start the next wave. And the apprentices that started on level 2 are now doing level 3. And as an employer, one of the things that we did was I recruited some very, very senior technical people as part of my function, and part of their objectives was to mentor the new apprentices when they came in. So it wasn't you just you come in and you're trained at college and then apply it in the workforce. It was how do we get people to mentor those young people. That was a fantastic experience, but what then came out of that was Cambridge Regional College. Some of the people that were at that college then moved on, and they've been involved in the Trailblazers. And Bango's been invited to help with some of the Trailblazers in terms of defining what an employer outcome-based apprenticeship will be. And I think this whole move to employer outcome-based, how do we give young people the right skills that are transferable, industry recognised, as opposed to putting them on a training course, they come out of a piece of paper and then they go into an employer and the employer says, that's really good, but actually I need you to do all of these things that you've got no experience of. So we've been working to help define those standards, and having been exposed to that, what's quite clear is there are varying standards in the training providers. So, that's made us sit back and think and reflect on where do we put our people, how do we make sure they get the best training, because at the end of the day, we look at it that we're developing young people's lives. We've got, as an employer, I've got someone's career. So how do we make sure that we give them the best chance so that at the end of the apprenticeship, hopefully they'll stay. And our focus, and certainly our experience to date, is they are very loyal, and they get to learn so much more than bringing somebody in from outside, because over the 2 years or 3 years that they'll know more about our product and know more about our industry, that we're able to give them something back. So as an employer giving back to the individual, a long-term career, they're giving back to us loyalty, and from an employer perspective, actually they give us a load of new skills and fresh approaches. So some of the things that we've seen the apprentices say, well, why do you do things that way? You've always done it that way. Well, why are you doing it that way? So we've been taking on board some of their feedback. So we as an employer, we've been very pleased with the apprenticeship program, and just listening to some of the feedback about how employer-led apprenticeships is going to develop. Was all for me a real thumbs up and the right direction that they should be going in.
David, thank you very much.